Joining me for this week's Harness Show are three standardbred breeders who in June embarked on a tour, an action-packed 2-week tour to the USA and Canada. Brent McIntyre, Mark O'Connor and John Stiven. Welcome, gentlemen.
How you going, Julie?
Good to have you with us. Now, I like this trip slogan on one of your photos, Three Musketeers on a Pan-Pacific flight. Was that the reason for the trip, that sire?
Well, that's how it all came about. Originally, was going there to meet the owner of the Pan-Pacific and see the horse in the flesh, and around that have a stud tour of America and finish up in Canada, the North American Cup, and do the studs up there. So John was my partner in crime originally, and then Mark seen the itinerary that Mark John had put together and thought this looks too good, so he had to come too, so that's how it all come about.
Oh, definitely an action-packed 2 weeks from what I could see. Now, your stud farm, Macca Lodge, has stood Pan-Pacific flight. This is the second season. You've had his frozen semen. How did you originally get onto him? How did you get to get access to him?
Originally, partner in crime sitting over there, John Stiven, rang me one day, said you better come over and have a look at this horse. Got a if we'd have a look at. Originally we tried to get a horse called Village Jolt, but we missed out. So this is about 3 months later, this one came along, so we thought, you know, liked the look of him, so just got on the phone, gave Jake Miller, the owner, a ring. Well, I never got home myself, on Swartz actually, that's where he was standing, and he put us on to Jake, and just all went from there.
Right, so how did you get to know about this sire then, John? What brought him to your attention?
I spend too much time on the internet looking at things like that, and Mac and I just talked a bit previous that one day that Macca Lodge might do something with a stallion for themselves, so the opportunity was there, so they followed it up and away it's gone. So.
And of course, this is great for Southland really too, isn't it? Because you know, it's been a lot of years since we've had sires perhaps of that standing here. I mean, we've got Washington VC on board, he's done a fantastic job, but prior to him, you know, you have to go a wee way back.
Yes, well, he's frozen semen, he's not here in the flesh, but that's sort of the way things are going nowadays. And the horse, when we started, had done absolutely nothing in the soring side of it, but he just had his first crop on the ground, and the horse has absolutely just taken off over there. It's done a sensational job, and we just feel pretty lucky. I think we've fluked it. A good, nice stallion. So
really, to start with, it was a big risk, wasn't it? You had no idea. You know.
Well, not really. The risk is actually buying the horse and bringing them here in the flesh. That's cost the money, some massive money to get them here, and this way it sort of, you know, takes the risk out of it to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Look, he's an extremely well-bred stallion though too, Julie, because his mum's a full sister to the mother of Art Major, so the blood was there. In terms of the risk, he probably didn't get the earnings on the board that he had the potential to, because he got injured as a 3-year-old as well. So I think Mac and John had sussed out it was a pretty quality animal to access anyway. So the risk was whether his progeny were going to do the job on the track. And
they certainly have, haven't they?
Yes, absolutely.
So his oldest crop in North America, what, just turned 3, or what are they, 2, 3?
3-year-olds.
Yeah,
3,
most of the way through the 3-year-old season now.
Yeah.
And there's 2-year-olds that did a good job of really going on and being good 3-year-olds this year, and he's left $300,000 2-year-olds off 56 foals in this current season, so he's away.
So how many mares did Macca serve last year, Brent?
We just got a bit over 30 mares to him, and we got 26 in foal.
Well, you'd be looking forward to seeing them on the ground in the next few months.
Yeah, we've got some nice mares in foal to him, on the doubles in foal to him, Jew and Sugar Rain and Lux Lady tonight. So we've got some nice mares in foal to him. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, he's owned by this man Jacob Miller, is it? That's the owner.
Yes, he actually bought him after his racing career, and stood
with
him
a view to a stud career.
Standing him, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Okay. Now, he's Amish.
Amish, yeah.
Amish. I stand corrected there. And you spent time at his property with his family, and that looks very interesting. How did you find that experience?
Absolutely brilliant, actually. They're tremendous people. Great sense of humour and a bit of fun and all the rest of it, but you sort of don't know that when you... I got that feeling when I was talking to them on the phone after a while, when I got to know them, but when you actually go and meet them, they're just tremendous people and made us very hospitable. They looked after us really well,
They overfed us, Julie.
Did they?
They poured a heap of food down our throats.
And how did you find the whole setup? Like, because they're quite self-sufficient, aren't they? Like, they
Yes.
don't really believe in technology, and obviously they don't have cars. Yeah, how did you find all that? Is it?
When we were coming along the road to find their place, we stopped at what we thought might be his neighbour, and he said, "Oh, Jacob Miller, he's the standardbred man just up the road." So we went just up the road, and here's this guy on a bike coming towards us, and we didn't realise it was Jacob, but he must have recognised it was us looking for him, and wheeled round and followed us in the drive on his bike because he's way down the road to ring us.
So it all begins.
Yeah.
So the two primary modes of transport are either the buggy and horse, or bikes now. A lot of them use bikes.
And I see they've got these. Well, you've got pictures of bikes where they're like leaning right back and.
Oh, that's the
what's-
young ones.
Is that?
They're
Oh, okay.
around there, they're hooning
right.
around on their flash bikes. Yeah.
They're not suitable for the older generation, obviously.
No.
So did you have a go on any of these?
No, we just took pictures of them. But we had to go in the buggies.
Did you?
Yeah,
You had to
yeah.
drive?
Yeah, no, it's passenger.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
That was good fun.
Now, he's obviously quite an astute businessman. He's got some sort of, is it caravan or car assembly type business?
No, he
what's the
actually just
deal
worked
there?
at this factory. There's a lot of Amish guys work there, and that's where. But he actually sort of gets all the local yokels, mares and foal for them around there and whatnot. But yeah, the actual horse himself, actually stands at a stud, about 100 miles away.
Now, this is the Swartz boarding farm, is
That's
it?
an Amish outfit too.
Yeah. Okay, now you obviously had a good look round there when you got down the road a bit and had a look round. How did you find that? How's the setup there in comparison to what you do here in New Zealand on your stud farm?
Well, most of everything over there is sort of done inside. Like they foal all the mares inside. And like that stud, he had 6 or 7 stallions there, and there was only 80 acres. He just bought another 50 acres, so everything was housed basically. They kept the stallions inside as well. Oh, they get out a bit, don't they? But
So they bring the mares in, obviously, when they're getting close to foaling, and are they in a box type situation? Each mare has got a box.
big barns.
Oh, yeah.
The unusual thing we noticed, Julie, is that the stallions are housed right next to the mares in the barn. The working stallions were kept close proximity to the mares.
And everything's cool, calm and collected,
Yeah,
obviously.
and-
There's not a lot of screaming and carrying.
No, like there's young foals in boxes there too, and didn't seem to worry them.
Right. Now, I see you've got a photo of some kind of alarm or something stitched into a mare. What's the situation
yeah,
there?
that's
What's
what
that
they
about?
use over there for. They can hook that up to their or they don't have cell phones. They must have some sort of alarm. But you can hook it up to a phone or anything, and as soon as the breeding bag comes out,
Do you
they
think
go
that's a bit of technology we might end
yeah,
up
they'll be
with?
handy. You wouldn't have any false alarms. That's rarely get a false alarm. If you got the other alarms, yeah, plenty of them.
Okay.
The other thing that was unusual about the Swartz boarding farm is that they had a racing stable associated with the stud as well, whereas none of the other farms had a racing operation as well. So they were training horses. It's a bit like Macca Lodge actually in New Zealand. Where
Okay, so this is the Amish, the Swartz boarding farm. They're
Yes.
running these two things in conjunction?
Yeah, and they just send all their horses away to the trainers after they get them up and going.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So is this a family type thing, this boarding farm?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's a stud operation with the training barn attached to it, really. Yeah.
Now, Pan-Pacific Flight in the flesh, I thought the photo was pretty impressive. You must have been
Yeah, when
quite
we-
blown away seeing him in person.
Yeah, they'd only just used him when we arrived there, so he's all sweated up and hadn't been brushed up or anything like that, but he was a pretty imposing animal. He was extremely impressive actually, but to what we're seeing over there.
Yeah, now then, of course, John, you went on to Hoosier Park Raceway and you got to see some progeny racing there, did you? Of
We
Pans?
did. Well, Mark had teed up with the lady there, that promotions lady, and she'd had one of her helpers there ready to meet us, and they took us down to the stabling area, and she introduced us to all sorts of trainers and drivers, and Trace Tetrick that drives Paco LeBrook, he was very upbeat about how good a horse he is, and so he invited us to the winner's circle before he won. He said he would bolt in, and he duly did, and then we met quite a few other prominent drivers of Pan-Pacific Flight stock.
Yeah.
Peter Wren, who's driving Flight Elau, and we got to meet Flight Elau himself in the flesh, and his strapper, and the stock are just so well conformed. There's, you can't fault them on looks, and they're doing the job on the track, which is
And they're
really
of a good
exciting.
size too, from what I can see too, aren't they?
He's quite a big stallion, but he's really thoroughbred look about him. He's quite fine, really, isn't he, Mac?
Yeah, he's actually. You think seen that major, he's similar in type to that, and really regal neck, crest, and all that sort of carry on.
Now, I see you pictured with a driving mascot at Hoosier Park. Is that the norm at the racetracks over there? They have these. Is there more than one, or is he just one?
We just made friends with him. We don't even know who he is.
Did you
Actually,
not know anybody
talk. He didn't talk. Surely.
Oh, right. Okay. So you didn't see any in any of your other trips to race courses?
No, I don't think there was any other mascots at the other. We really only went to the 3 tracks, didn't we? Hoosier Park and Mohawk up in Canada. And we had to stop over at Lebanon because in North America you can't go to the TAB and watch the races. You actually have to go to the track to watch the simulcast. So it was a Saturday night the week before we got to the North American Cup, and so one of the farms we went to, they directed us to the nearest racecourse, which was Lebanon, just a small town in Ohio.
And you can there watch races from anywhere.
Yes.
But you have to, I think that's a good thing. That gets people on course.
That's right. And so we watched the heats of the North American Cup the week before the final to see the eliminations and who qualified.
What a good idea. So therefore are the crowds good on courses? Like, I know it's hard to compare with here because it's a much bigger population, but are they drawing the general public?
The general public were going to the casinos. One of the farms we were on commented that, how'd you like the casino? And Mark said, well, we didn't actually go there, we just went for the races. He said, you'd be the only 3 there then.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there was lots of people at the casinos.
And there's gaming machines and that interacted on the tracks as well, isn't there? So do you think that helps draw people to them or not?
Definitely gets people to the site. And like the night that we went to Hoosier Park, it was quite a good race card. There was a couple of $40,000 size stake heats, and there looked to be a reasonable crowd there. And when we were at Lebanon, there was as many people inside doing the intertrack betting as there was outside watching the races. It was a pretty low-key meeting. And the North American Cup meeting up at Mohawk, that was a big event, so that was packed, and that was a big deal.
Yeah. You know, we'll touch on that shortly, but just going through, you visited so many of these showplace properties is all I can say about them. They're just fantastic. We'll just touch on Diamond Creek Farm. Very impressive looking setup, and the stock looked absolutely outstanding. What's the main focus of that property? Is it agistment, breeding? They obviously don't have any sires there. Seems to be a bit of, some people are doing everything and some people are...
Well, he's a new guy to the industry, really. His father and Adam Bowden, I think Adam's about 27, and they've set this place up basically just to breed yearlings for the sales, from what we can see of it.
Yeah.
And they have 74 mares of their own, really top mares. One of the last best ones they bought was Isabella Blue Chip for 700,000. So they've got top echelon stock, and the reason to go there was to see Some Beach Somewhere progeny, and so we got to see 3 colts and 3 fillies, and that was their next part of the trip after we did the Pan Pacific flight thing. It was to look and see what, because I'm a bit of a Some Beach Somewhere fan, as these guys know.
He's playing that down. He's a huge Some Beach Somewhere fan.
Of course, too. Macalodge got access to his semen this year too, so that's fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so the progeny you saw of him there impressed you?
Yes, very much. Yeah, so they sell the first of them at Lexington in the next week or two, and then Harrisburg start of November. So it'll be interesting to see, looking at them when we were there, and then again on their videos now that they've just put out. The stock of they're just real impressive. So
their yearling prep is much along the same lines as we do here, like they really concentrate hard on them the last two or 3 months leading into the sale?
Oh, I think they concentrate on them harder from when they're born.
Okay, yeah.
They had a pretty flash set up. They had a ring at each end of their big barn, fillies one end, colts the other, and round yards, and the works.
So that's what they're really focusing on there. Yeah.
It looked as though they had a pretty regulated inspection regime, Julie, and they handle them probably a lot more as young horses, probably more we do, and they're trimming every 6 weeks, and probably more vet attention.
Weighing their food and weighing the horse and doing the whole, they're right into it.
Very, very
and their
professional.
sales a lot later than ours too, wasn't it? So they're about 2 months older than what
Yeah, I
once
reckon
they
they
were
are, yeah.
sold.
Oh, okay. Yeah, actually, yeah, there was some quite big-looking yearlings in some of the photos. Just wondered, yeah, they obviously are a wee bit older.
But
Now,
the last 10 to 12 weeks, they certainly intensify the work
Yeah.
effort. So that
Yeah.
is similar to us at that point. But there's probably a bit more front-end attention than what
Yeah.
we provide.
yeah, but I guess probably the difference is too is we're all working another job. You
Yes.
know, like there's always that's not our sole focus.
That's
You know, it's always farming and something else to do, isn't there?
Yeah.
Now, Hunterton Farm, the resting place of the great sire Meadow Skipper. That was interesting. How did you enjoy going there, seeing his
Oh,
grave?
that was a gem of a stock, really. Mark's got the figures there. Of the
Some of the progeny that this guy's bred in the last 4 or 5 years. He's just bred the Metro winner this year, 2-year-old $1 million race, Simply Business. He's produced and sold Rock and Roll Heaven, a top trotter called Blue Porsche, and a top American Ideal filly who just won the Jugette called Idyllic. So he's pumped these top-notch horses out from probably a reasonably modest mare base in the last 3 or 4 years. So he's a top-line guy. He was really interesting to talk to.
And is that where Meadow Skipper actually
yeah,
stood
well,
when he
the
was
history
alive?
that they're looking after, that place used to be Castleton Farm years ago.
Okay.
And they've got where the monument for Meadow Skipper is, all round behind it is these graves of some of the greatest brood mares in history. Just the way they're looking after the history of what's happened at that farm and the job he's doing going forward was really good. So
The current proprietor of that farm, it was his brother who managed Meadow Skipper during his career.
Oh, okay.
So and he died of cancer at a reasonably young age. So
Yeah.
his brother's come in and taken over the operation.
Well, that's good. He's
Yeah.
obviously committed to keeping that history. Now, Hanover Shoe Farms, of course, you know, some beach somewhere. That's where he stands. You must have been rapt to get in there and see him. Now, is that him with the sunshade on?
Yeah, it
Yes.
was.
Yeah.
We were there at 8 o'clock in the morning. John
Yeah.
had to go up there the night before to make sure we weren't late. And
we
Oh,
knew we were
really? You
going.
were so
yeah, it was
desperate
the
to get
first
there.
people there in the morning. So I wonder when we got arrested. But
Oh, what were you hanging around their gateway the night before, seeing how long it took to get there?
John couldn't sleep that night.
Oh, the excitement. And did he live up to your expectations, John, in the
oh,
flesh?
he's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, he's got nothing left to prove on the racetrack,
No.
but meeting him live, was that what you expected?
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
fair highlight of the trip. There's no doubt
that's
about that.
fantastic. Now, a lot of
But,
other sires stand there too. Well said. The Pandarosa, of course, the sire of Pan Pacific Flight. Yankee Cruiser, you know, it was obviously a pretty impressive lineup.
Yeah, well said. It's quite a nicely made stallion. He took our eye. The Pandarosa also was a nice cut of a horse, Mac, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, now, John, you're holding a mare in a box there, an outstanding looking foal beside her. Who's that? That's obviously on that property.
Well, that's a Some Beach Somewhere colt foal, and the mare's called Bunny Lake. She won a bit over $2 million in her career and one of the best mares of recent history. And yeah, that was she was lovely. Yeah.
And that foal, is that destined for a sales or what?
Oh, I'm sure it
what's
will be.
happening with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, now you also had a look at, you weren't all just breeding, had a look at a training setup. Was it Chris Riders you were looking at? I see a very busy looking training establishment. Looked like a lot of horses trained there.
Yeah, Chris shares a training facility with probably 9 or 10 other trainers.
So that's where we're looking at when we see
Yes,
that busy.
yeah, and fairly impressive setup. And John had teed up through Peter Ryder in New Zealand for us to connect with Chris, and he was good enough to take us down and show us around the New Jersey region that he was based at. And we went out for dinner with himself and a good mate of his called Steve Dye III, who's one of the top vets over there, and he bred and raised Cam Luck and also Presidential Ball. He reared him and sold him through the auction ring. He seemed quite a young guy too, but he was good to talk to over dinner. And Chris really looked after us, took us down to a stable the next day and showed his top line filly in work called Put On a Show. She was just coming back into work at that stage, and it was good to see her run around.
Now, Chris, he's done a fantastic job. You know, he's an expat Kiwi, trainer of Mikado and Art Major when they were at the top of their career. He's obviously got no intention of coming home to New Zealand.
I wouldn't imagine so. He's
No.
been pretty successful over there and
Yeah.
done very well.
Yeah. Now, you did see some outstanding looking foals on your travels. That's quite obvious by your pictures. Are there any sires you think that are leaving real standouts in your eyes from the amount you obviously saw a lot? Was there a certain size that you kept thinking that the foals are just more outstanding than the others, or too hard to
don't-
too
you
hard
don't-
to
You don't
name?
need to ask John that
Well,
question.
we'll know what
He'll
John's
say
gonna say,
something
don't we?
somewhere. But
Yeah.
To be
And we'll
fair,
know what
we
Brent's going to say.
To be fair, we really targeted to try and see some of that stock because it was my job to that part of the itinerary.
Yeah.
So that's what I asked people, and that's what they showed us.
Okay. Because there's no way you can look at them all, is
No,
there?
no.
No. Okay.
But there were some lovely Pan Pacific flight
Yeah.
stock on the ground that we saw, and we saw 2-year-olds. Rock and Roll Hanover is obviously still doing a tremendous job over there, and one or two of his foals caught our eye.
Now, just getting on to him too, you went to Peretti Farms, of course, the home of Rock and Roll Hanover, McArdle, Matt Scooter, and we actually did a feature recently on the show on that property, and very sadly it's now going to close. It has since been announced. Any wind of that when you were there?
No, none
No.
at all.
No.
We were there probably 3 or 4 weeks before that article was taken.
So do you think it's just the overheads and it's all too much? Like, the upkeep in that on these properties alone, the staff, are there a lot of staff getting around mowing lawns and doing things like that?
Actually,
Oh.
Chris Ryder's wife works in the office administration area for Peretti's, but it's a father and son setup, and obviously the father's getting on in age a bit, and I'm not sure if the son's totally committed to the business.
Oh, it'd be a huge financial commitment, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Like, because they're very reliant on selling stock through the sales, aren't they? As
Well,
well as
they've
what
got
they
the
get in for
stallions
their
as well, so,
sires.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're keeping the stallions, so aren't they? They're just getting rid of the farm, which is unbelievable. It's just an amazing setup.
And will that be snapped up for development? Is it in the sort of area where it could be developed?
No, I don't think so.
No.
It's got a lien or something on it that it's to be farmland.
Oh, right.
Reserved
Yeah.
for agricultural purposes. Yeah.
Yeah,
So therefore, could it be subdivided? Because it's a huge
for
property. isn't
smaller
it?
blocks of farmland, I suppose, maybe. But
Did you get any indication, are the breeding numbers up or down over there? Things looking quite buoyant from what you could see? I know it's
Well-
hard in 2 weeks, that's a pretty hard question, but yeah.
Yeah, where all the slot machines are going pretty good, but whether or not, like there's a Meadowlands area, they were struggling for a while, but I think they got it all under control now. But yeah, they're very reliant on slot machines over there.
Okay.
Keep the game going.
Yeah.
We got some feedback, Julie, to suggest that even the areas where the slots are subsidising the racing activity, that some of the harness people think that might only occur for about 10 years, and they've got to develop ways to be able to stand on their feet, because the casino people at some point are going to say, well, look, you're not paying your way, so we're not going to continue to give you a leg up. So they don't think that flow of income is going to continue forever. So they are conscious that they've probably got a 10-year window, and they've got to make inroads to make the industry self-sustaining.
Okay.
If you compare it to our game in New Zealand, we've had to keep things going independently without other sources of income from day one, really.
Yes. Yeah. Blue Chip Farms, another property you went to. I like the slogan here on their sign, bred in New York to take on the world. I thought that was quite good. Now, of course, the home of Rock and Roll Heaven, Bettor's Delight, Art Major, American Ideal. That was obviously an interesting visit.
Was indeed.
Yeah, nice property.
Yeah, standout property. You can carry on about that, John.
yeah, well, it was good to see Bettor's Delight. I was lucky enough to have seen him in Auckland when he's been over one time, and he's, well, a few of us told us he's the best stud in the world, so to speak, at the moment. And then we got to see the new boy on the block in Rock and Roll Heaven, and his American Ideal, such a lovely horse, and so is Arch Major. So they've really got a top lineup at Blue Chip, and so have Woodlands in New Zealand. So
Yeah.
just another showplace. It was.
Well, they
yeah,
just seem to be one after the other. like.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just get bigger and better, and then they're all condensed in fairly much the same area, or not really?
Oh, we covered about 4,000 miles before we jumped on the plane to Canada. So
It's a lot of
yeah,
driving.
they're spread about a bit.
Yeah.
Blue Chip Farm, you look down the valley to see their extent of their property. It's pretty picturesque and quite impressive. But we got shown around that farm, or taken to that farm by a guy called David James, and he's tied up with Empire Stallions in Australia now. They've got 4 or 5 top stallions that they're bringing semen into the New Zealand market for the first time. But he's probably got a roster of up to a dozen stallions in Australia that he offers. So he's in a big way in the down under market.
Yeah.
He's an American, and no, actually he was born in Canada, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His father owned the Albatross.
Oh, right. Oh, gosh.
That was an interesting story.
Yeah.
He told us he was one of his first jobs when he was a young fella. His dad told him to take this few yearlings to the sale with their price on their head and bring them home. He doesn't get them, and the Albatross was $200 under this price, so he took them home.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, what an amazing story that is.
He showed us quite a few of the trophies that Albatross had won.
Was it all for the sake of $200?
$200,
Yeah.
And look at, oh my goodness, oh, that was a lucky escape for them, wasn't it? Like to bring him home, imagine if they'd let him go. Gosh. Now, just moving on, the Goshen, is it Goshen Harness Museum?
Yes.
That looked interesting. And John, I see you having a bit of fun there, laying back in a bike.
Trying to be Dexter Dunn, not making a very good job of it, really.
Is that very was it uncomfortable as it looked? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Because it did look pretty uncomfortable.
We were lucky enough to have a guided tour by David's wife Donna. She was director of the museum for 8 or 9 years and really helped get that place set up. So we got a royal tour, and they were marvellous people, and looked after us for the whole day really till they put us into the direction of the plane to go to Canada. So it was really where anyone over there really needs to go there and have a look.
Yeah.
Peter Ryder said to me, just make sure you make time to go and see it, it's well worth it, and he was dead right.
Oh, well,
What John didn't appreciate at the time, they've got a track right at the back of the museum.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it was actually the Arden Downs track. It's been renamed now, which John's farm, breeding farm, and Noreen, of course, was Arden Lodge. So that's where that.
So it was named
that's
after.
That's where the name came from.
Oh, really? Gosh.
Yeah.
Now, of course, then you moved into Canada because you did fit everything into this 2 weeks. Tara Hills Stud, the home of sports writer Jeremy's Jet, Mr. Big, etc. Looked to me like you could eat your tea off the floor in the stabling block. That was about as clean as it gets, isn't it?
Actually, Brendan Fay had been over there the year before, seeing his son and Nigel and whatnot.
Yeah.
And he took his shoes off to walk through the stallion barn. That's what he thought of the place.
Well, it looks like that to me too. It's cleaner than most people's houses. Very impressive in terms of facilities, that property. Yeah.
They groom their paddocks like bowling greens. They don't just top them as we do. They really groom. Their stallion paddocks were just immaculate. The whole place was a real show place. Yeah.
The Heffering family who own that facility, Julie, they're dairy farmers, but I've read up since that he got his first standard bred in 1988 after he'd been farming for quite some time, and then got into it big time. But that was a really polished, well-run farm. Probably one of the top ones we saw, to be fair. Okay,
now you also visited another expat Kiwi, Mark Herlihy, Tony Herlihy's son. Now, he's really at the top of his game over there as a trainer driver, isn't he, in Canada? You enjoy visiting him?
Pretty well. Johnny latched onto him.
Well,
he's getting the results, isn't he?
Made contact, and he was more than happy to see us, and we popped out there pretty early one morning, and they were training, and we got to watch a few going round, and for the time he's been doing it on his own, he's had a good grounding. He's worked for a fair few of the good guys over there, and he'll be a name for the future over in that part of the world for a long time, I'd say.
He's got a good young driver working for him too. Can you remember his name, guys? He's making a name for himself. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, which is important. One interesting thing that Mark said is that during the winter, it gets so cold there that he might have to be on the tractor from midnight to 4 o'clock in the morning, turning up the track just to keep it from going rock solid like concrete.
Really?
So that's the downside of training in Canada in winter.
Gosh. Now, you also went to Grand River Raceway in Toronto, and I see there's a race here, the Kiwi Mania Trot. What's that about? And you're all standing in there in the photo, or do you guys sponsor that? Or?
Well, it was probably thanks to Alabar, the guys that teed us up to go to that meeting with them, and I think they were having a wee bit of a joke with us with that, and knew the people at the track. So yeah, that was quite a dig.
Oh, that's quite good. The photo looks good.
John Coffey from Alabar, Australia, and his son we're on tour with Graham Henley from Alabar, New Zealand, and so we hooked up with them for about 24 hours while we were in and around Toronto. And of course, with John being Australian and they'd named it Kiwi Mania, he felt a bit ticked off about that. But
oh well, I'm sure he'll get over it.
he will.
Now, of course, you mentioned a bit before about the North American Cup at Mohawk Raceway. That was probably most likely one of the highlights, was it, going to that race meeting? It's a big deal, the North American Cup, isn't it?
Yeah, it was probably equivalent to a cup meeting for them over there, up there, because they come up from a whole of North America to race there. And it was, we had a great day out there, met a lot of great people, and we had quite a successful betting day up to about halfway through the meeting. Things went custard, missed out on a big one, but we're lucky Nigel Fay arrived on the scene late in the night, and he got us up to the aftermatch, and it was quite a good night out.
Was
I
it?
met Carl Jameson, the trainer of the horse that won the what's the name of the horse?
Up the Credit.
Up the Credit.
Oh, you
And
see,
Jody
won the cup
Jameson
that night, yeah.
all the local yokels.
Now, I see you, Brent, having a talk to a driver. Or you looked very
Oh, yeah, that
seriously
was-
in discussion. What's the...
Yeah, we just went to the day before the North American Cup. We went down to the Mohawk, and they were having trials with the 2-year-olds there to have a look. And Luke Lillette was the guy I was talking to, and he actually drove. Very good driver, but he was a driver of Pans when he was going. So I was just finding out about him there, and he was quite interesting to have a yarn to.
So, yeah, he obviously had a lot of respect for the horse.
Oh yes, well they actually thought they were going to win the Meadowlands Pace with that horse, but he didn't get to the final because he made a break in the preliminary heat, and he never got into the final. But
So he's, and he's driven a
and
lot
then
of
he
other
broke
good
down
horses
afterwards
too.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Julie, just to jump in there,
Yeah.
the one race that Mac talking about, we missed out on the punt. It was All Tiger was racing. And of course, with Just a Tiger standing out at Riverton, an ex-New Zealand horse, was probably the only Kiwi horse racing that night. And we had great plans. It was the race straight after the North American Cup. We had great plans to have a decent lick at it on the tape. And we were busy studying up to try and get a trifecta sorted out. And then the race started, and we didn't have a bet on it. Came home and won and paid $50.
now, did you have any time for any other sightseeing other than horses? I mean, I know you only had 2 weeks; it's not long, but did you get to do anything else? Or?
A wee bit. We went to the flea market in Indiana the first day we got there. Some huge...
Shopping. That
Huge,
doesn't
yeah.
sound like the sort of thing three would do.
It was a horse heaven trip, and we had no intentions of being a shopping trip.
I hope you brought home some presents for the family.
But, a couple of touristy things. We went to
Gettysburg.
Gettysburg, it was
Hanover.
right next door to Hanover, and
Yeah.
a
It
couple
was
of
a
things like
sobering
that.
place
Okay.
to be.
Yes, see all the graves and that there. And Now, okay, just
And
to
then
condense
Canada.
it all up, a highlight for each of you. Brent, you've got a highlight of the trip.
Well, there was a number of highlights. We were talking about highlights. Every day seemed to be a highlight because there's something quite extraordinary happened most days. But I really enjoyed the Amish people. That was really good. And there's too many to number.
Okay. Mark, can you label something that stood out for you more than the
I
rest?
really enjoyed the time with Chris Ryder, and he was a nice relaxed guy, and telling us about training McArdle and how he'd operated in America and went out for dinner that night. That was a great day. But as Mac said, that everything seemed to, as we went through the tour, everything just seemed to get roll better and better, and we got in some great. Into some doors that we didn't think we'd even get close to getting in, like the after-match function with North American Cup. That was good fun.
I mean, that's realistic. You shouldn't have even been in there like that.
No.
Yeah, that's
Nigel
fantastic.
Fahey really got us in the door there. But we met the vet who looked after the winner, and he looked after 4 of the North American Cup, and he looked after 4 of the top all 3-year-olds. And he was from Prince Edward Island. And we thought he was a lot like the Southland sort of style of friendly, easygoing sort of person.
Yeah.
But there was some really neat people.
John, can you name a highlight?
Oh, well,
I know what you're gonna say.
Well, Southwind Farm. That surprises you probably. We didn't mention that. That place was probably the most immaculate with, they had horse statues and people statues all over the place.
Actually, yes, we didn't mention
And,
that with the lakes and
the brood mares, the backdrop of trees behind the mares, and the trees up the driveway, I reckon they measured them to the inch when they planted them. Just things like that were just superb. And the guy there that is the stud master was Arts Place's handler for his career at stud, and he was a pretty special horseman. So yeah, that was one of them. But the best thing was to see Pan Pacific Flight was more than what we hoped to see. That was real cool.
Well, look, it sounds like you had an absolutely fantastic trip. Any plans to make it an annual event?
I'd love to.
We're talking a couple of years.
With a bank balance stretched to that.
Yeah.
Oh no, look, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. It's been great for you to share your experiences, and I think everyone will find it very interesting hearing about these sires and these beautiful showplace properties.
But once our Pan Pacific Flight start hitting the ground, Julie, we'll be able to afford to go back, so that's what we're waiting for.
That'll be great. I'm sure there'll be a few volunteers to carry your bags. Thank you.